I am live, but we are going to check. I am testing out my mic, making sure it's ready. It says I'm live, so let's go at it. I just wanted to have a discussion tonight based on all the stuff that's gone on over the last couple of weeks regarding the fake nursing scandal. And let me fix this. Sorry about that. And all the stuff that's happened. Oh, great. I'm getting feedback. There we go. Sorry about that. So, wanted to discuss all the things that are going on right now and what it's going to look like for the nurses who are the fake nurses, the ones who are did obtain their licenses under fake or fraudulent, pretense. There has been a lot of, I don't know how to say this. Yeah, I do. There's been a lot of nasty, hateful, really angry type of things happening out there, especially like on TikTok and other platforms. It's kind of like that torches and pitchfork thing going on. Everybody's like, burn it all down. Anybody that was a fake nurse deserves to lose everything, kind of stuff. And I get that, and I felt that way too. But as I have heard more and more angry, negative, hate speech, all kinds of things going on, and I may get some flack for the way I feel about this. It's not the way I feel about it, it's the way I'm choosing to look at all of the stuff that's going on, look at the nurses, look at the whole situation. And I think that when we deal with other people, we have to not only look at the crimes that have been committed or alleged crimes that have been committed, and we also have to think about coming from a place of, what if it was us, coming from a place of empathy, sitting back and really listening and not just talking all the time about let's do this, let's make sure that they all lose their licenses. It should be taken away immediately. No questions. And I do believe that. I do believe those licenses need to be suspended immediately. And there is the whole ideal of due process. So they do get due process in a lot of states. And I think a lot of states, as we've seen, are grappling with this, whether or not to give them hearings or whether to just annul the license immediately or those kind of things. And personally, I do think that the licenses do need to be annulled in most cases. I think that sometimes due process is important, but I really want to just step back, put yourself in the shoes of what if it was you? What if you were one of the nurses? What would you do in this situation? And I have like had those moments where I've been driving in the car going, what if it was me? What if I was one of those nurses driving into work right now, like losing my internal shit over the fact that there could be potential, I could be fired at any moment or I could be losing everything. And even if you committed a crime, I think you do have that unwind moment of that everything is going to go away really quickly. So I kind of wanted to just play this like, what would I do? What would you do if you were one of the nurses who was caught up in the scandal? Me personally, I think that I would contact a lawyer. And none of that I'm saying here on this chat is legal advice. This is absolutely not. This is not nursing advice. I don't say that I'm saying what the boards are going to do, although I have a really good idea what the boards are going to do. In California, anyway, I understand how the board works. I understand how their due process works. Administrative hearings are very different than criminal hearings. So there can be a lot of ramifications coming down the pipe. But if it were me, I would immediately contact a lawyer. I would contact a lawyer because there is so much that is going to happen with regards to this, and it likely won't happen overnight. But I think I would be unwinding inside. And I think if I were working for an employer and I were a registered nurse who was going into patient care areas, it would be time to, stop immediately. The jig is up, it's over. You can't keep going into patient care rooms. You can't keep doing patient care because if anything does happen, it's on you criminally. And the fact that you were well aware that you were caught, that you were told that your school was, that was nullified, you didn't have a degree, at that point, it is up to you to go into your employer. And I'd have to go in and say and have a conversation with my employer. I might try to negotiate with my employer and see if they could take me out of clinical care, see if they'd be willing to put me in an administrative position until things got sorted out. I think that I would try to discuss what my options were with my lawyer. And what that's going to look like with contacting the board. The board's probably not going to contact you right away. In some states, they have either reached out via letter or they have reached out in some way, but this isn't always the case, and boards can be really slow. So it's going to be up to you to be proactive. I would have to be proactive. I think that I really do believe that there are probably two or three different types of nurses that are caught up in this scandal, and I do not believe that this is all just nurses were completely 100% fake. I don't think that this program would have operated as long as it did if it didn't look like it was putting nurses through school. And I think that what we're going to find out later, and you could just like hold the thoughts on that one, or you can let me know what you think. I think that they're going to find out later that there were probably a good number of nurses who did attend what they thought were clinicals. And although the the indictment indicates that they didn't have clinical sites contracted with the schools, they only had two skilled nursing facilities and one home agency. That's not enough to get your clinical hours. I think that there were nurses who probably did believe that they were going to clinicals, going to classes, doing whatever workbooks they had to do, and they probably had what they thought was a nursing education or an expedited nursing education. So I would seriously think about contacting a lawyer. Probably not going to be able to afford one. It's going to be super expensive and you're going to pay a fat retainer unless you have a lawyer who is going to take you on contingent, not contingency, but more of like a pro bono because this case is so big, like the lawyer in Georgia. I have a feeling that lawyer in Georgia is probably not taking a big amount of money. This is so much, there's so much information on TikTok and it's so big right now, and she's getting a lot of publicity for what she's doing with those nurses who are fighting back against the Georgia Board of Nursing right now. That she's probably taking the case for free at this point. I'm just guessing. That's just my thoughts. It didn't seem like this was something that. It seems like she's getting an awful lot of media attention for just taking their cases. So anyway, if it were me, I would contact a lawyer. I would really talk to I would pull myself out of clinical care immediately. I would talk to my employer if they're going to fire me or let me go, file for unemployment if you're allowed to. Find a way to work in some other way in the meantime to pay your bills. But I think I would be losing it mentally right now if I was one of the nurses who was told that my degree was fake. Me personally, I really worked my tail off when I became an RN, and I hear these stories of people saying, "Oh, well, we didn't have money, we had this or we had that," and why they were struggling or why they felt like it was okay to buy their degrees. And my point about that is, we all struggled. Every single nurse out there that I know struggled in some way, shape, or form. I was a single parent. I was raising two kids. I had a newborn in nursing school, and I still showed up every day with my, breast pump in tow once I had my son, and I struggled so hard through nursing school. But, it was a journey that I knew would be well worth it. And to shortcut that, for me, it's hard to digest anyone cutting the line on that whole process. But, people do it. People thought maybe if they could pay or whatever, they could get through it. But I do believe that there's going to be people out there who really did think they were getting a nursing education. I know that clinicals, when you go, they have papers they sign off every time. Some people probably kept copies of those. Some people probably did not. If you're somebody who's a documenter and you kept all your, signed papers from anybody who said they were giving you clinical hours, I think sounds like boards are some boards, not all. Some boards are coming in hard and some are coming in with the whole due process theory. I did hear that Delaware, although they came out really strong and they were annulling licenses immediately, the LPNs who were caught up in the scandal, who were LPNs before they got their RNs through those schools, they have offered them their LPNs back, which this is a whole nother thing. And if I had that kind of offer, I would take it with both hands and run with it. You're not going to get a better offer than that. But the reason I say hire, I would contact a lawyer is that I would want something in writing that if I accepted something like that, to me, that's a deal that we're going to be done with this. It's over. You're going to give me my LPN, and that, I would try to negotiate getting into another program and seeing if I could negotiate being able to go back later and get my RN through another program. This is going to be a time of rebuilding. Any time in life that you go through really tough things, and we've all gone through them, there are times where our lives are about building, and then there's times where we are torn down. And I don't care who you are in life at any given period in your existence, you're going to go through times of growth, and you're going to go through times where you're being pruned back and it feels really horrible, or you're going to feel like you've been leveled to the ground. And I have had that happen probably a couple times in my life where I felt like my whole world was crashing down. and like I was being leveled. And those are the times that you're measured not by how you fall down, but truly how you get back up. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to really even think about it. We just got to get back up and keep it moving. And if I'm one of those nurses who got caught up in the scandal, or maybe I really didn't know what was going on, or I got scammed, I would have to bite it and say, you know what, I got scammed. That's a loss. That time and money is a loss. You don't get your money back on scams because already the federal government has already seized the assets of the individuals in charge of the scheme. There's not going to be any money for you to grab at. Although those cases haven't gone to trial yet, unless you get a civil suit filed right away and try to get your claim ahead of the federal government, which good luck on that, probably not going to happen. Once they seize the assets, that's done. The government owns those assets, and I doubt they're going to be unclenching their hands or giving them back. When you are a federal agent, you work for a federal agency, you understand, or the government in general, they once they seize assets, they take them. It's over. Nobody else gets to usually come in and take those back. So good luck. I just don't think you're going to get any money back out of this. Fighting it in civil cases is probably out the window. If I was one of the nurses who was caught up in this scandal, you know what I would be worried about? I'd be worried about the people I took care of over the years, who anyone who had a bone to pick with me, and I don't care who you are or how good of a nurse you are, there's always going to be somebody who has a bone to pick with you, no matter how good the care you give them. Something is going to happen. Somebody's going to have a bone to pick with you. They don't like you. Not everybody has to like your face. Not everybody has to like your demeanor. You might have thought you gave good care, but maybe someone's family member died. Maybe they had a bad outcome, and guess what? They blame you. And if they ever go digging, and because everything is being doxed out there on social media right now, when people go digging and they're looking for someone to blame and they see that your name is associated with being a fake nurse, guess who they're coming for? Anything you own, anything that you have as far as assets, whether it be homes, property, boats, whatever, cars, bank accounts, they're going to be coming to sue you. So what I would do is worry about talking to my lawyer, worrying, making sure that any assets that could be protected got protected. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not saying go be criminal, do anything like that. I'm just saying that if there's any potential for me, if I'm that nurse and I know that I did something wrong and there's a potential that maybe I would be in trouble for it, I'd be really worried about everything I've worked for crashing down. And I'd probably either, like I said, talk to that lawyer, find out if I need to be putting money in an escrow account, which I doubt anybody's got that kind of money, because when lawsuits hit, they're going after all of it. People will be filing lawsuits. This is probably not going to play out until 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. We're not going to hear a lot about this until then. So I would be worried. I would be very worried. I'd be worried that my employer would find out before I had a chance to talk to them about it. And I would be worried I was going to lose my job and everything with it right here and now. So I would probably go on the, I don't know that I would go on the defense. If I knew I did something wrong, I think the best thing to do is admit it, deal with it, and then keep moving and rebuild after that. But if you feel like you got scammed and you truly did attend classes and you truly did attend clinicals and you felt like you were an appropriate nurse, even if you were not, if your belief in your heart, if I was one of the nurses and it was my belief in my heart that I did what I was supposed to be doing and I was about to lose everything, I would really be doing some damage control on the front end. I wouldn't hide. I wouldn't be waiting for my employer to come to me. I wouldn't be waiting for one of my coworkers to dox me to the internet or to my employer. I'd probably remove my social medias. I would get off social media if I was on social media. I would talk to my bosses. I would let them know what's going on, and I would be honest, because honesty is the best policy in most cases. That doesn't mean you're not going to be fired, but it does mean that you have an opportunity to at least state your side of the story, possibly mitigate the damage, and keep moving forward in your life. Talk to your family members. I would talk to my family. I would let them know what's going on. I would just be working to do some damage control, but I know that inside a lot of these nurses have to be feeling intense shame, guilt, terror. I think terror would be a good word, way to put it. And, I do want to take a step back from all that I'm seeing on the internet right now, all on TikTok, all on Instagram, all on all the places, because I'm seeing a lot of like anger, and I feel like there is some anger mongering going on. I see a lot of creators who are really going in hard on this and playing on the anger emotion to get views. And I don't like the way that looks or the way it feels. I will never be that girl to be somebody on my social media accounts doxing anyone else. I might have the names of everybody that was involved in the scandal, but I will never be that person that's going to put anyone else's name out there because that's not my job. I can talk and give my opinions. I can talk and we can have conversations about what your opinions are. But putting people out on blast, that's for the government to do. That's for the authorities to do. That's for, handling on the down low at my jobs and everything else. Maybe if I'm working in a place and I'm working with someone who is one of the fake nurses, I'm going to go talk to my employers. I might get involved that way, but I'm not going to go out there and be posting names on social media and blasting people and trying to ruin lives. That's not my goal. Um, that is what the boards are doing at this point in time. And good for them. If the boards feel that, notifying the public is the best course of action, I do feel like that does need to happen. The boards do need to let the public know. And most of the boards have done a really terrible job like handling this from the jump. I have seen it. You've probably seen it. Some boards are taking swift action. Some are doing nothing. Like California State Board, I haven't seen jack diddly from them in like months. They haven't given any statements about it. And I guarantee you that when this all comes down to the end, most of these nurses are going to be found in California because California seems to be the most traveled state that nurses go to go earn their money, get in and get out. So I think that a lot of these nurses are going to have licenses in the state of California, my home state. Um, I've met a lot of nurses from Florida, Texas, New York in my, time working in different places, and I have a feeling that we're going to find out a lot of them are in California or have licenses in California. But I'm really disappointed that the State Board of California has not issued any kind of anything, no statements, no nothing, no disciplines, unless they're handling it extremely quietly. But I have a feeling they're going to go with the whole due process thing. They're probably going to, offer different types of negotiating deals with some of these nurses because anytime you work for state board of nursing or anywhere else and you have to go through administrative hearings where lawyers have to be hired and all of that has to go on, it's expensive and they don't always recoup their funds. They have to have investigators do investigations, they have to have lawyers in the administrative hearings, and like I said, it costs money to do that. So because it costs money to do that, that's where if I was one of the nurses that was caught up in this scandal, I would probably reach out to the state board and start negotiating through a lawyer. And I would see if we could come to a plea deal. And they do that. They often offer deals, and if you surrender your license, they won't come after you with full force, with punitive, and they may be willing to offer you some kind of plan in order to remediate and get your license. It doesn't sound like a lot of these boards are going in hard and not offering to let these nurses recoup or come back and go through new programs and take their licensing exams again. I don't know how I feel about that either because I do feel like if you commit fraud, if you're somebody who like was out there committing blatant fraud, you're probably somebody who doesn't really deserve to have a license, and that's just an ethics thing. And I think it's going to be a case by case thing, but when you have 7,600, it's hard to have a case by case thing. But if it were me, I would probably be panicking. I'd probably be losing it and feeling like the world was going to come crashing down, but I would probably get in front of it. I would talk to my lawyer. I would talk to my employers. I would try to get into a room negotiating with the board with my lawyer and see if I could come up with some kind of deal. I will say this, if you are a nurse who happened to be caught up in the scandal where you actually like flat out paid for your degree, and you think you're not going to get caught, I can promise you will. The first thing that the FBI did was seize all the computers and everything that had all of the information on it that, Jean's program and Sacred Heart and, the school, Palm Beach School of Nursing and all of that, all those places, they seized all those computers. They seized all the paperwork. Those schools kept that information, and that's how the DEA has a lot of this information. They know who paid for those degrees. They know where the money trail went, and they followed it before they even made the announcement. So you're going to be found out, and it would be better to go to the board directly with your lawyer and cut a deal. And if you were somebody who fraudulently just paid straight out, didn't go to class, and your citizenship is hanging in the balance, because I promise you it will be. For a lot of people who got their citizenship on emergent, not it's called critical access visas for nurses coming from other countries to come over here and do school with an agreement to work in the United States for X amount of time. They were offered deals to get their visas and their green cards to continue to stay and continue to work in the United States. If you were caught up in this fraud scandal and if you get charged criminally, I don't know how they're going to handle it with administrative hearings, but it's going to affect your citizenship all the way down. This can go back further and further and further, from civil lawsuits, criminal lawsuits, getting charged, losing your citizenship, losing your right to even apply for citizenship again. If you're at risk for losing all that, and that was me, I'd be calling a lawyer and I would be trying to cut a deal with the FBI for testimony. It's just me. If I had, hard data on the fact that I paid for my degree and how I was scouted and what went on, and I have proof of that kind of communication that went on between one of these executives from the nursing schools, I might offer that data up in exchange for something. You have a bargaining chip, you find out what that is. But that's why I say contact a lawyer, because you're going to need to find out what that bargaining chip is. And I may get some like real kickback on this for taking this side of it. I'm just thinking of all sides. And I'm trying to approach this with a bit of empathy, because I think we lack that in today. I think that we can say all we got to say, we can have our feelings, we can put our views out there, but I do want to have a little empathy for those that might have been caught up in being scammed. Because in order for this operation to run, they call it a front. There had to be a front of this operation where it really looked like there were students going to class and going to school. And from what I hear, there were students that were going to class and were going to school. And usually it's like a pyramid, and it only inverts upside down. And just picture an upside down pyramid. They usually topple because the people who are supporting it from the bottom are so few. And if I was one of the people who was the front of what the operation was, so it looked like the doors were open to students who were attending classes, and I was one of the people that was supporting the rest of what was above me, which was people just paying for their licenses and getting what they needed to get, I would probably definitely consider what that means, and if there is any kind of way that I could negotiate with either FBI, the boards of nursing, anything I could do to assure that I could get something in writing that could alleviate the burden against me later on. Because it's going to be about rebuilding life at this point, because it's going to tear these people down all the way. It's going to be root and stem for the most part, and some of these people do have families. So that's where I come from is, a lot of people aren't really sorry until they get caught. And I'm sure a lot of them are sorry that they did it. That doesn't mean that we need to just forgive, move on, and let them keep their license. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying that we need to handle this with a little bit of dignity and respect, and say, like, okay, there's people whose lives are falling apart right now, and I don't agree with what they did, but I'm not going to dox them on social media, and I'm not going to go out there and talk hate speech and everything else, and sit there and be like, yeah, let's lynch them. That's the whole kind of like mentality I'm seeing out there. I do think that there needs to be swift action against them, but I also think that we need to approach it from looking at all perspectives. And that's just how I want to handle this. I just want to like think about others. I want to think about what people feel. I think that, in life we can choose to be really angry all the time, and, there's a time for it. And in the beginning, I was really angry too, but I just don't have the time for that. And for me personally, I choose not to be angry, and I want to look at it from a more cerebral perspective and kind of look at all the facts. I'd love to see what this case looks like. I hope that they do televise the cases against the 25 individuals who are running the schools. I think they need to do that. And I think that we're going to hear a ton more about this moving forward from law enforcement. We're starting to see other people who are being found out who have been working as nurses who didn't ever get the degrees, or they didn't take tests, like the nurse who was working for Tyson for 15 years who just failed the NCLEX and never went back and tested, and she's just been treating people all these years. We're going to hear more and more about that, because the tolerance level for it is zero. And there is a major campaign going on to root this all out. And I think the boards are having to step it up. I think that appointed officials at the boards are under a lot of scrutiny right now for allowing this to slip through their cracks. I think we're going to see changeover in leadership within the boards because some of this is their burden to have caught this earlier on. So I think that instead we do need to be mad at the individuals who did it. I'm mad. I'm not angry, but I'm not one of those angry types of people that just feels anger like that all the time. Like I said, your mentality, what you feel in your heart, what you feel in your head, that's your own choice to feel what you want to feel on a daily basis. And I choose not to just put the hate and the anger out there. I just want to have more of a peaceful existence than that. But I think from like a legal perspective, from a nursing perspective, we are going to see some changes coming down the pipe. We're going to see probably changes in leadership at the boards. I think we're going to see a lot more government officials being held accountable on how this could happen. The departments of education, who are, the departments that handle education and credentialing, they're appointed. They're appointed by your governors. And if your governors didn't figure it out, Florida, hint, hint, uh, like, really, Florida accreditation didn't catch any of it. That blows my mind. That's where we need to be calling them out. And, we need to not focus it on just the people who got caught. There are people all the way up the chain that are responsible for this. And it's not just the nurses, there are powers that be that allowed it to happen as well. Moving forward, I think that as a nurse now, I'm speaking from my own seat here. I think we are going to have to give up a certain level of privacy as nurses because we need to have better identification within how our nursing licenses are handled, what nursing licenses look like. In the state of California, they haven't issued cards in at least 8 years. I think my last card I got was in 2008, and after that, they said they're not issuing cards anymore. Any employer has to just contact them or do a verification online, which there is no pertinent information when anybody can verify a license online. You simply go on, type in the name, and pull the license number. That information is public. So by having that, anybody can get a job and say, "This is my license number. Oh, I happen to get married. My name on my license isn't the same anymore." And people are like, "Done. Okay, you work for us now," because there's no social security number, there's no driver's license number, and fingerprints aren't being exchanged. I think that on Live ID in California, we have the ability to put passport and legal information like our social security number embedded into our Live ID card. I think that our nursing license should be embedded in Live ID. It's a one-stop shop. Our fingerprints are on file. It's all on file anyway. It's not like we're giving up any more. I think the state of California as a whole needs to incorporate it with a photo and with some identifying information that can be verified. Just how I feel about it. So I'm willing to give that up if it's going to protect the practice. I've already gone over and gotten my Live ID, and I had to give up my birth certificate, social security card, and all the junk in order to get my Live ID. So what's one more number in there? They've got everything else. My license number is tied to my fingerprints through the DOJ anyway. So I think it should just be added into the database, and we should work to make sure that our picture and our information is correct. And it's a one-stop shop ID. It's all the state. So I don't know. What do you think about that one? But I have rambled on here for a while, and I would love to hear your thoughts. And, hopefully everybody's having a great night. I have not been on YouTube a ton lately, and I apologize. I have been working my tail off, so I haven't been on here. But I am going to be trying to do some more lives and posting more often. It's kind of hard. It's really hard when you're exhausted at the end of the day. I'm exhausted today. I've been up since like 4:30 this morning, went to work, did my thing, came back, and now I'm on here, which it's been a long day. So I'm going to keep trying. I'll come back. We'll have more chats, and we'll just go from there and see what we can do. But just want to keep it real. Let me know your thoughts down below. Please like and subscribe. I would love it. Thank you so much, and peace out.